Hello again, guys, and welcome. I figured today it's finally kind of pretty outside and not freezing, so I figured today, sorry about the lighting, I'd go ahead and do a rundown of what I have actually done to the car. I know a lot of my videos are kind of old. I think the last real video where I broke down the specs or whatever I've was done to the car was probably about 3 years ago, maybe even more. But anyway, I am still on stock bottle caps. I don't hate them. I do want to run, I'm eventually wanting to run like a set of 16 by 8s or maybe 16 by 8.5, or maybe stagger the rear to like, but I have, it's an H&R spacer that is for this car exactly. So I know a lot of mixed reviews on spacers, whether or not, but to be honest with you, I've been probably on them for 2 years, I think now, or at least a year and a half, and I take this thing to the mountains and kind of thrash it around, and I've never had any issues or anything come undone. I've recently taken the wheels back off and checked the torque on the actual spacer, and nothing is loose. This side, I know it's kind of hard to tell. This side has actually got hit by an 18-wheeler, believe it or not. So the fender has been replaced and the door has been replaced, and this side has been resprayed. It's not the greatest paint job or whatever, but it is what it is. This is not a show car. She is a driver. I drive it. Spend most of my money on fixing all the mechanical stuff, whether that be suspension, brakes, and engine work, stuff like that, replacing bushings. And I've kind of neglected some of the exterior and I guess beauty of the car, but I've slowly been doing things here and there. The paint was really, really horrible, and I've hand polished a lot of it out, and it kind of brought some of it back. It's not 100%, but it's definitely better than when I bought it. I still have the original hood of the car. Took it off because the clear coat, obviously, on like a lot of these is really, really bad. It's clear coat and scratched, and so I took it off because I was going to go have it fixed, or I was going to sand it down and have it repainted. Well, in the process of doing that, I was like, well, I need another hood. Couldn't find a red hood, of course. Anytime you need something, you can never find it, but you always find it when you don't need it. So I found a guy kind of local that was, he had a few hoods, and I think he had a silver one and a white one, and then he said he had a black one. So I was like, well, I'll do black. Well, he pulled it out of his building, and ended up being this dark blue, kind of like, I don't know what shade of blue that BMW would have called this in the 80s, but the newer blue that looks like this is kind of like carbon black or something along the lines like that. So I cleaned the hood up really good, and I mean, it's got some dings to her, right there, but overall it was actually in better condition than my red hood. So I just put it on for shits and giggles, and a friend of mine was like, man, now you got the red and blue, you just need white. So hang on a minute, let me pause because this train's coming by. All right, and we're back. Train's still going by, but I believe you guys can probably still hear me now. Anyway, so thinking about it, I was like, yeah, that would be kind of cool. And being that the hood isn't perfect, it's kind of, I guess you said, worn. I was looking for like an American flag. I know this is a German car, and I don't have like an LS swap or something like that. It's it's German car, BMW engine, but we're in America, it's my car, and I kind of dig the red, white, and blue. So I found like a tattered flag vinyl, and I think it looks great. I haven't really seen anybody else do this. I mean, I've seen different color hoods and people doing certain things on their hood, maybe even urban camo or regular camo or whatever, but I haven't seen anybody really do a flag like this. I enjoy it, so I don't know, you guys can tell me in the comments how you feel about it. But anyway, moving along. Again, this side right here is the original paint. It's Xenobrat. I believe that's how you say it. I hope I'm not butchering that name, but or Cinnabon red, or however you say it. Like I said, I hand polished a lot of this out, got a lot of the milk out. It's not perfect, but you know, it definitely looks a lot better than it did. Moving forward over to the engine bay. So this is an 88 ETA. Now it still has the original 2.7 bottom end. It does have some long tube headers. They're no name. I'm assuming they're eBay, but I've had them on here probably for 6 years and never had any issue other than one spot where we had to weld it. It is a Bimmer Heads 885 head, and I'll show you where it says Bimmer Heads right there. I apologize for it being a bit dirty. It's I don't know if you guys have the same issue, but it doesn't seem to matter what valve cover gasket I use or how I torque it or what combination that I torque it down or how much money I spent on the gasket. It tends to leak. Not a lot, just like enough to make everything dirty though. So I just every so often wipe it off or whatever, but it's kind of is what it is, and I'm sure, you know, everybody knows, oh, BMWs leak, or at least old ones do anyway. But it's their what they call a super sport head. So it is has a port and polish. You know, it has a 3-angle valve grind job. I'm running the heavy duty rocker arms. It's OEM double valve springs, which originally this engine came with single valve springs. OEM size valves. It is a bigger cam. It is a 280/274 cam, 280 on the intake side and 274 on the exhaust side. So it has you know, after you start it up and it's idle down, it does have a nice little lope to it. It sounds really, really good. I noticed a big difference, you know, from driving it from when I first bought it to now. Like there's a big power increase, whereas before, you know, you felt like you had a good bit of power from down low up to probably about 45, maybe 5,000 RPMs, and then she just died. But like now, it really comes alive around about 3,500 RPMs, and she revs all the way to 7,200. Now I rarely take it there because I'm a bit, you know, it's this old motor, and they tend to be lazy revving, especially these M20s, and so I am, you know, I will rev it that high, but I most of the time I'm shifting around, you know, 6 or 6,500 or something like that. These are, I believe, I apologize for not really remembering, I believe these are the Ireland Engineering 8mm wires. They're just NGK plugs. I have their Garagistics strut bar. I'm running ground control coilovers. Let's see. There is a squid tune in here. It's their stage 2.5. Everything on this car is hard mounted, or at least it's mounted all the Delrin bushings. So all even the control arm bushing down there, if you can see it, is the M3 style offset. Sorry, there it goes. But everything is from Condor Speed Shop, and that was one of the first mods I actually did when I bought the car. Was I had it for a few months, and I really cleaned it up because, like I said, the guy before me, you know, had it plasti dipped, and it was just, the car ran fine because I drove it as is for probably 2.5 years to 3 years before I did the, you know, the head swap and everything. But first thing I did was I really cleaned it up, and I swapped out all the bushings, and that includes the rear subframe, the rear trailing arms. The only bushing on here that has not really been touched was the rear diff, and I want to do that because I do have the Delrin one, but the OEM, in the process of getting everything done and putting it all back together, the OEM one that was in there looked like it had been replaced pretty recently, and it was pretty good, and then it was getting late, so I put the car together. And so far I haven't really had any issues, but I do want to change that out and see if it makes a difference in you know, driving or want to under load, I guess you would say. Moving on to over on the other side of the engine, me and a friend of mine kind of made this beauty plate. I know some guys are like, oh, worry about, you know, getting it hot, but like I said, I've driven this thing hard in the mountains. You know, you can drive it hard in the mountains, immediately pull over and put your hand on it and it's cold. I mean, even right now, I've been driving it around and it's cold. You know, intake manifold isn't got a little bit warm, but it's not hot. But this is cold. None of this ever gets hot up under here. For me, you know, there's a lot of vacuum lines and like OEM rubber hoses and everything underneath there, and it was just kind of ugly. And I actually got the idea from a S2000. On the S2000, like where the fuel rail goes and all the wiring harness for that, they have like this little beauty cover. And I was just on YouTube, like, you know, everybody else, saw a guy that, you know, when they put in a new fuel rail and everything else, excuse me, I'm sorry, you know, he made a new beauty cover for it. So I decided to do it. It's just a piece of I believe it's 16 gauge steel that I got from Home Depot. Me and a buddy, you know, took a piece of cardboard, kind of folded it up, made brackets. These all mount to like factory kind of like locations. You know, there's nothing cut or whatever. Now granted, I do not have power steering, and so I've used where that power steering reservoir used to go, I've used that to make a bracket. But we made I mean, like in 10 minutes made these brackets up, welded some nuts on them, painted them up, and then I went to I cannot remember right now, but there's a company online. They generally do Hondas, but they make these you know, engine dress bolt kits, and these were very, very affordable, inexpensive. I believe I think I spent less than $4 for these, and they work great. I used to have a KA Motorsports carbon fiber aftermarket intake. I really didn't like it. To me, it just didn't fit the engine bay, especially with this engine. And I think the OEM BMW box is the best looking thing, unless you're wanting to build your own box similar to that. And most of the stuff I've read online, like, it makes no difference. You might hear it or whatever, but the only really change that I did, I mean, it's just an OEM you know, filter, man filter, but down here, instead of bottlenecking to that little it's like little air horn thing, you know, I used like a coupler and some flex hose, and like I said, it runs great. I don't feel a difference in powers from this than the KA Motorsport. So like I said, I mean, most of the work is all top end. You know, most of the top end is all brand new. Most of the sensors are all brand new, gaskets and everything else. I even replaced the oil pan gasket. Again, she's kind of dirty or whatever, but she runs like a top. You know, they run like sewing machines anyway. Moving on, I have some Euro Smileys with the black housings. The only problem I have with these is, like, they look great and I really do enjoy them, but as far as lighting goes, I even kind of converted them and put an LED bulb in them, but the lighting at night sucks. I don't know if you guys have the same issue, if you have these or not, but I'm probably going to switch to like a motorcycle light or headlight, so to speak. I know some guys don't like that, and don't get me wrong, I think the Smileys look better, but as far as, like I said, you know, I drive this car, I enjoy driving this car, and the lighting I can get from... Hang on a minute, guys, there comes another train. All right, guys, we're back again. Sorry about that. I didn't think... I know the train comes by here, but I didn't think that we were going to see like 2 trains back to back while I was doing this video. But anyway, like, my interior is... This interior is... I know it's kind of hard to see. This interior is black, even though I have this tan sport seat in here, but this interior came black. It just came with the regular comfort seats. And this one is very ugly, I understand. It does not fit the car. It looks very, very ugly, but I got it for $100. All the functions on it work. You know, it was just kind of ratty, but I like it so much better than the comfort seat that I had in there. I don't slide around. I really get held in. So it might be ugly, but it does its job for right now. I plan on getting either a restored set of sport seats, or I might end up doing the set of Corbeau GTS 2s, I believe. To me, they look kind of period correct. They're a little bit newer. or they are a lot newer. They kind of look like old school Recaros, I guess. They're similar shape to these, but you can get a set of those new cheaper than you can get a set of a set of sport seats redone, because a lot of people are wanting. A while back, I think I saw a set for $900, but most people, I think, are wanting anywhere from $1,200 to like $1,500 for a decent set. I have a Renown steering wheel. This is their newer one. This is the, I forget exactly what they call it, but it's a competition. So it's not super deep, but it does come out. It's leather or red stitching. It's pretty thick. Horn button. I have like a suede dash mat, or what's supposed to be suede. It's not all that great, but I mean, it looks pretty good. Has custom stitching on it because I'm an M20 guy, so M20 power instead of like M power. I have from 2M, I believe it's 2M boots, or 2M shift boots, I believe is the company. These are suede. They're suede with the red stitching like the steering wheel, and the same thing with the shift boot. This is a Garagistics chassis mounted with the medium chassis mounted shifter with the medium shift rod, and I also had the double shear rod up underneath it. Makes a huge difference, guys. I'm a huge fan of shift feel in a car, and every car that I've ever had that at least that's had a manual, I generally go in and change all the bushings and everything, because I like a firm feeling shift. I don't even mind if it's notchy, to be honest with you. Like I said, the rest of the interior, there's really not a whole lot going on other than those few little bits. Moving it around to the back, like I said, it does have lone tube headers on there. They're stainless steel. And the exhaust, I do plan on changing it for basically right now. It's just a kind of a hodgepodge of parts. But it's more or less straight piped. There is a small resonator on it. I think it sounds pretty good. It's not all that loud until you get to about 3,500 RPMs. It did have I used to have, I believe it was a MagnaFlow muffler on the back, and the mount broke or something happened, and but it was really ratty to begin with. So I cut it off for time being and just kind of put this tip on. And I eventually want to redo the whole exhaust and come out and have actual true dual tips that come out of the back, just like I believe that BMW should look like. But it sounds pretty good, and it's not that horrible. These tail lights, you know, there's kind of an eBay special. They're, I guess you would call it just Euro style, I guess is what it be. And they're smoked. Excuse me again. I like them. Used to have a clear set that gave me nothing but trouble. This side just didn't want to work all the time, but I plugged these in probably about 2 years ago, and they've been great. Again, in here, I actually still have all the coverings that go around this. I took it out mainly when I was doing suspension, and I also have the Garagistics strut tower back here. Again, not a whole lot going on. I do have this, which doesn't really matter, but I'm excited. I'm kind of, this makes me happy that I have all the tools. Again, I'll probably never use them, but it's just cool to have them. There is newer brakes on here. Well, I say newer brakes. They're OEM brakes that's been refreshed. There's new pads and new rotors on there. Although I do want to do a bigger brake kit up front. Nothing massive, because again, like, my goal with this car is I'm going to run individual throttle bodies on this M20, and I'm probably going to punch out the bottom end to, again, either like a 2.8 or a 2.9. Right now, like I said, it's a 2.7. But I would love to bump up the compression a bit, run individual throttle bodies, and stroke it out just a bit more. I like that. I know it won't make more than probably 200 to the rear tire. If if it makes anything over 200 to the rear tire, I'd be excited. But the power band will be really linear. ITBs sound amazing. The throttle response is amazing. But I mean, that's the next major goal with this car. That and run a decent set of wheels. These aren't bad. I mean, they're reliable. I mean, I guess, you know, they're 30-something years old. I do have a 373 LSD rear end, which is nice. Very nice. This thing will get sideways. I've never had it dynoed. I would like to one day to see what it makes. I've seen similar guys online on certain, you know, a couple different dynos, and all of those guys I think are making around the 170-ish mark to the rear tire. I think 178, some of them, maybe 170. I think I'm around there. I think I'm at least, you know, anywhere from 165 to 175 to the rear tire, and probably about the same amount of torque, maybe a bit more. There is, being that it's not a super high compression motor, you know, it's an OEM kind of bottom end, there is a slight dead spot, especially also with the bigger cam on the bottom end. Now, first and second, you don't really notice it, obviously, because you have the 373 rear end, but if you're not going all that fast, like maybe 40, 45, and you're in third gear, when you punch it, there is a dead spot, almost kind of like turbo lag. But once, you know, once it gets over about 35, 4,000 RPMs, it really picks up. But she's a great little car. She's got some flaws. I do have some rust underneath the battery pan under here that I need to cut out and fix. And that's the only real spot of rust. Underneath is really, really clean. Transmission does leak slightly. I need to replace the rear main seal, I believe. Or maybe the seal at the actual shifter. So there's that spot, and then there is a bit of cancer up here on the roof. It's not soft. It has bubbled the paint, but it's not soft, so it's something that I need to, like, again, a guy I bought it from had a, I don't know if you can see kind of the outline. The guy had a roof rack on here that I just wasn't using and took off, but I believe that, you know, it's kind of dug into the paint and little area. So I guess I need to drop the headliner and get up under there and see if it's bad, you know, either have it cut out and spot welded and fixed. Something that I need to do. I do keep the car in the garage. I will drive it in the rain. I don't like to. I have a 2021 330i 3 Series that, you know, I guess it's like the family car that me and my wife both drive. Well, she drives it most, but I mean, like, if it's, you know, really, really bad weather, I take it out, and I try not to drive this in the rain. I will, because again, it's a car and we use it, but it does stay in the garage for the most part when I'm not using it. But you know, other than that, it's been a great car. The only issue I ever had when I first got it was a water pump, and I know they normally overheat and everything else like that, but luckily on the old head, it never warped or whatever, or it never blew out the head gasket or anything else like that. So I just kind of put a new water pump on it and drove it like that for another year. And then I finally did the head swap, and then, like, there's a Gates racing belt on it, and all new everything. And the only old part really on this is the bottom end. I'm not 100% sure what the mileage is on this. The guy before me swapped the cluster out for a 7,000 RPM tack. When I looked at Carfax, the last reported mileage for this car was, I think it was 125 or 135,000 miles, which I know is not a whole lot for these. I know when it doesn't leak oil, it doesn't really burn oil, like it's not smoking out the back or anything else like that. It pulls very, very strong. I never had any issues. I mean, still could see all the cross hatching in the bore. The pistons look fine. I just kind of cleaned up a lot of the carbon that was on them. But, you know, other than that, you know, this is my E30, and you know, like, again, I'm going to try to make more videos and everything else like that. So, if you guys want to leave comments or whatever, ask me any questions. There may be some stuff I missed or didn't say. Just let me know. All right, bye.